feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball advantage. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com, and you can always head to JBandGoldwaterShow.com as well as download the JB and Goldwater app so you can find us daily, and you can watch and listen to our program in its entirety for free. Always on social media, follow us at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our text line. That's part of the Share Healthcare chat lines, which many of you are already into here at 12:02 on the final Monday of October. Welcome November here shortly and the cooler air that enters with it. It's also Halloween week. So all of you who are excited to get your kids out there trick-or-treating, David and Steven and Clint, I hope y'all aren't trick-or-treating yourselves. But if you are, enjoy. And if you have a costume, I hope it's nice. But it is Halloween, so Darren and I, with little kids, are certainly excited to get out there and roam the streets coming up this weekend. It's an off week for the Gamecocks. It's been an off season for their offense and Clemson's. We'll get to all that here in just a little bit. We got Wes Mitchell, Perry Orth, and Gene Sapakoff in succession on our program today, so it's going to be a busy one. But Darren, as bad as Carolina is, as bad as the Tigers have been offensively, we'll start with the good today. The Atlanta Braves are in the World Series for the first time since 1999, and I know Braves fans hope they can party soon like it's 1999. An amazing achievement for Hotlanta. Good afternoon, buddy.
Amazing achievement for them. Awesome for Dusty Baker, who they're going to be going up against as well. 19 years in between World Series appearances. He has famously not performed well in the postseason, and there have been some questionable decisions on his part. But, man, that would be a great story if Dusty Baker can get over the hump. I'll say this. I had a great weekend. The Penn State loss is not something that affects my weekend like it does a lot of you in the chat room already. So that's that. We already got into the Halloween spirit. We went to the pumpkin patch on Friday, so that was fun. Yeah. I enjoyed watching football all day yesterday and all day Saturday. So it was a good weekend. It really was.
Yeah, my wife is still out of town. She's gone till Wednesday, so I had a long weekend with my children. They're killing me. Yeah, we had a pretty good one ourselves. Watched plenty of football, plenty of baseball, and, of course, now we're here to talk about all this today. We'll get some kick times out to you here soon when they are announced. But first and foremost, and I see all of you in the chat line, a lot of that has to do with South Carolina. We're going to get to them in just a little bit. We're going to talk about the OT rule and all that today. We got some other baseball, some really neat notes related to the College of Charleston to pass along as well. But yeah, let's start with the Braves, man. What a weekend for Atlanta, coming home and putting the final stamp and the finishing touches on winning the pennant in the National League. They, as talented as they are also the hottest team in baseball right now, taking down the Dodgers 4-2. Pitching has been pretty darn good. And they beat Walker Buehler the other night on short rest. Scherzer, I had a feeling he might not throw much, even though they slated him to go. Dead arms don't disappear. You need a month or more off for those. And he didn't pitch. But the Braves won. And I've seen, unfortunately, some national takes on this about why the Dodgers didn't win. I like Kurt Schilling's. Braves won because they're better. That's why they won. And they're in the World Series. And so now they get the Astros, and I got a feeling this is going to be a really good one. Darren, I go back to what you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago. Generally, when you get the hottest teams in baseball and the best teams in baseball, you have a pretty good postseason. And right now, you have definitely probably one of the best three teams, I would say, in baseball throughout the year, like season long, 3 or 4. And you have the hottest team in baseball. So you have the hottest team and one of the best teams meeting in the World Series. And I think that makes for probably 6 or maybe even 7 games in this thing. It's probably going to be a while.
And fortunately for the Braves, you've got another pitching staff that isn't completely where they had been for the entire year. So it's another staff that they're mixing and matching. Didn't start off well at all against Boston. Then they were able to turn it up a notch. That's been part of the story. I mean, you can't tell the Braves story here without telling the Dodgers side of it. So there are 2 sides. But yeah, it's a hell of a story. I mean, the fact that it was the 111th game when they first cleared 500. I think that's my favorite number for the Braves. That and the trade additions for Anthopoulos, how well they performed down the stretch. And look, people are talking about it, so that is a good thing. But I mean, it's the latest a team has gotten over 500 for the first time to reach the World Series. It speaks to the run of the Braves. It speaks to the magic, like you said, the hottest teams in the postseason. I mean, you want to be that, and that's what the Braves are. They turned it on at the right time, and a lot of that is Alex Anthopoulos.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole key to this thing, right? As you mentioned, they were under 500. They made moves. They made the right moves. Those guys have come in and performed. They, Soler, and you get the COVID test, and you get Rosario, who comes in and plays lights out. I mean, they're doing everything right. And there's a couple of things that happened over the weekend. I mentioned last week how big of a fan I've been of Brian Snitker and how he's managed. I want to talk about him putting Luke Jackson back into the game in Game 6, and he came in and he struggled again, and he went out there and got him, and they were to hang on and win. So you've got, like I see, we've got in the Share Healthcare chat lines so far, a few people, and somebody said, Ryan, I'd leave my wife for Tyler Matzik. You be you, man. You do what you got to do. As great as Matzik, I mean, he has been, I think Freddie Freeman said it the other day. This guy is just, he's dealing right now. He's feeling it. But, for Snitker, he puts Jackson in the game, and I think there was a lot of the fan base or a lot of people watching, just baseball fans going, what are you doing here? So, Darren, I think you got to look at it from both sides if you're Brian Snitker, right? One of those sides is, do you leave Matzik in there because he's dealing? I don't know what the analytics are, what the matchups look like, or anything like that were coming up. So I can't speak to that. I can only speak to the decision itself, based on the performance. And the performance was unbelievable for Matzik. Then you make the move to go to your setup guy and Luke Jackson, who had already struggled, and then you're planning to go to Will Smith. So do you make the move because he's your setup guy? Or do you stay with the hot hand, which was Matzik at the time? And there's always debate in these decisions. I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer there. I think one side of it, you stay with the hot hand. The other side of it is, what message do you send this guy? Hey, you're not going to be good enough for us down the stretch here to set games up. You have to evaluate that as a manager. I don't know what that evaluation is going to be, but I think in order to have the conversation, you have to understand the decision that this manager, Brian Snitker, had to make. He decided to go with Jackson to give him another chance. He threw him back out into the fire, which I've always been a big fan of that in sports. When you screw up, get him back out there as quickly as you can. Get him back out there, or her, or whatever sport it is. So I didn't not like the move. It didn't work. But Will Smith, I mean, as much as he's been criticized, Corey pointed out 2 weeks ago, Darren, he's been really dang good. And he was able to get it shut down. And the Braves defense, airtight. They've been super. And they're in the World Series, man. They're in the World Series. This is unbelievable.
It's fun. It's fun. As a fan, you get to the World Series. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And staying up, I mean, you're not even upset that you're going to be staying up until God knows what time.
No.
However many times in a row it's going to happen with a day off every now and then for the next week and a half. Like, you're not upset about it because it's It's the World Series, and that's awesome. And you said the hottest team is good to have in the postseason. Also good to have maybe the hottest bullpen on the hottest team. Braves have that. They're not favorites. I thought that was interesting because probably they don't have home field. It's very, very close, but the Astros are very slight favorites in the series. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I mean, Houston proved all of their worth, and the Red Sox were as hot as anybody as well. And Houston, after they were pummeled in games 2 and 3, just shut them down. I mean, it was. I mean, I thought that series, as well as Boston was playing, I was like, oh my God, this thing is over. And Houston shut me up and a lot of others out there. I mean, they're to show you how good they are. Mm-hmm. And they've been here, Darren. You pointed that out last week. They have been here a lot over the last 5 years. And the nucleus, the heart and soul of the organization has been that run. So, and they're there. So, I mean, it's easy to see why they're favorites. I think the Braves don't care about that. They're going to embrace the role that they're in. Doesn't matter. But this is really neat. Gene, by the way, Gene Sapikoff, when he joins us at 1:35 today, is joining us from the Battery right outside of Truist Park. So we're going to get a live listen, at least, to what's happening over there as they get prepared for the World Series. And we're going to do our best to get Corey McCartney scheduled in here tomorrow for a major preview of this sucker. So excited for Braves country, which in general is the South. And maybe they get to bring one of these home. So here you go. Before we move on, I know everybody really wants to get to South Carolina. We're going to get there. In 1999, Cher's Believe was the #1 song that year. It was her first #1 single in 25 years. And you would better believe the Braves are believing this year, so maybe there's an omen there. Also in 1999, Bill Clinton was president. I found a couple of interesting nuggets here. The best or the hottest selling cell phone at that point in time was the old Nokia with the antenna on top. You played Snake on it. Everybody had that, right? Everybody had a Nokia. Owen Hart, WWF wrestler, died that year. Bret the Hitman Hart's brother.
Okay.
Owen Hart, he died that year. The first and biggest Christmas gifts of 1999, the Sega Dreamcast, Nintendo 64 DD, like the add-on that you could plug into it. Furbies. Everybody remember Furbies? Yeah. Furbies. Pokemon.
Dude, that's made my daughter all of a sudden is like all into Pokemon. I don't know how that happened. Continue.
Yeah, I agree. I
don't know where it came from.
I saw that on TV the other day on Nickelodeon. I was like, what? Mary-Kate and Ashley and Britney Spears dolls were the hot-selling dolls for Christmas that year.
You can make a case they'd be hot-selling dolls right now, too, if you remade them. Anyway.
Yeah. I was going to say something else, but yeah, you're right. And the hottest restaurant that year was Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. Chuck
E. Cheese, 1999. There's a bunch of interesting things that happened that year. So anyways, I'll try to sprinkle some more of this in today and tomorrow and things like that. That was also the year we lost Payne Stewart. Yeah. Lost, and that year, one of the 10 worst business ideas voted on globally was PayPal.
Yeah. Experts know what they're talking about, don't they?
Yeah. It kind of worked out for PayPal.
Yeah, it did.
$1 trillion company or whatever it is now.
Spawned like 1 million different PayPals too.
Yeah. So, that is what was going on in 1999. The last time the Braves were in the World Series. The last time they won it was 95, and I'll have some more nuggets for that tomorrow and throughout the week. But again, it's the Braves and it's the Astros coming up on Tuesday night in the 2021 Fall Classic. Charlie Morton and Framber Valdez will get the start for Houston. Charlie Morton looking to have a good one over there. Braves, to win it, they're going to have to win one. Obviously, you want to win two. I get that. I just don't see them being able to come home down 2-0 and win this thing. They're going to have to split in Houston, at least in my opinion, which I've been wrong all postseason, so don't go betting on that.
Crazy things happen, right? In 2019, the road team won all 7 games. So
that's true.
It's weird. Things can happen.
That's very true. That was the strangest thing I think I've ever seen in a postseason series. 7 games, road team wins in all of them. I don't think I could have ever thunk that would have happened, but in baseball.
And it was the Astros too.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Anyways. 12:15 on a Monday afternoon. The Share Healthcare chat lines are hopping, and you can be a part of that. You can also be a part of Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly. ShareHealthcare.com for as low as $149 a month. The Clemson offense was once again terrible this weekend. Believe it or not, Gamecocks have like 400-something more yards this year offensively than Clemson does. So we're going to mix some of the Tigers conversation into ours this afternoon. We're going to get to Gene about some of that as well, but we'll start with South Carolina because that's what all of you want to start with. And I think, Paul, you said it right off the rip there. Does Clemson or SC even know how to play offense anymore? Boy, do we suck. I think that's a collective we that you mentioned there, Mr. Nelson. The bye week is giving us 14 this weekend from Craig. It's a little less than I thought, but yeah, that's probably a good thing still, Craig. Wink, wink. Clint, I was a big fan of the Beamer hire. I'm not liking his tone and some of his post-game pressers, though. The honeymoon is definitely over for me. He needs to make some staff moves immediately. Clint, we're going to get to that. Steven says staff changes, if any, will have to happen after the season. Craig responding, it looks like to Clint, those should be interesting. Yeah, Clint, he's a little defensive in post-game interviews. I don't think he knows what to do next. David, you're right. Guess what? Satterfield is still awful. I would agree with that. Don't see Beamer make already read that. Sorry about that. David said, I don't see how he doesn't make some changes after the season. Ryan, make it stop with 100 Ps. Yeah, I can keep going. So we're all in the same ballpark here today. I see that. Let me fast forward. Yep, I see Ryan. Kevin Harris, 2 rushes through 3 quarters. So Darren, if you would lend me the mic just for a minute or so. I'm not going to go off on a crazy tangent, but I was wrong on Friday. I thought that there were a couple of things that would benefit Carolina and actually having a better night Saturday night than they did. What I didn't anticipate is they would get worse in week 8 than week 7 by a lot. I think 11 yards of offense through 3 quarters kind of, I mean, I don't really know what else you could explain. I kind of is what it is. Can't really point to a play or two. Got to point to all of them. The play calling right now is part of, I agree with Shane. It's part of the problem. The problem is the core of the apple is rotten. And I don't mean that in a personal sense towards Marcus Satterfield. I don't think it's appropriate to make personal insults towards anybody. I don't even have a doubt in my mind that he is literally doing everything he possibly knows how to do. I just don't think he knows what to do. And this is just me personally. I think that I think change is necessary now, not at the end of the season. Now, as it pertains to Shane Beamer, Darren, you got this is the way that I see this, and I think hopefully you'll give me a little bit of credit on this. I generally try to be as open-minded and see as many angles of every situation as possible, because every situation is different based on who is where in that situation, right? It's like an equation. Someone's the numerator and someone's the denominator. So, Shane right now, you can look at it this way. One side is you can make a decision that's going to satisfy a very large majority of the fan base. There's always going to be a portion of your fan base, I'd say 10% of it, that's going to, doesn't matter what decision you make, it's going to be fire Shane Beamer, fire Ray Tanner, let's burn down Williams-Brice Stadium and go play at Wofford, those type things. And then the 90% are going to be satisfied because a decision was made, right? So that's one side of it. The other side of it is the side that we don't know. And if he decides to make a move now, is that in the best interest of the football team? I'm with a lot of you. I think that would be in the best interest of the football team. That's what I personally think. But I don't lead the organization, so I don't know. I don't know that answer. So he has to evaluate, which is his first priority. What is the best interest of the football team? Is it to A, not make change now? Is it B, to not make change at all? Is it C, to make change now, or is it D, to make change later? Those are pretty much the 4 options that he has. I would say the least likely option is not make change at all. This isn't inside information. I don't have any on this. Guys, if you have a brain and if you have eyes, I think we can all understand that change is probably coming to South Carolina. So that's where he stands. And, Coach Mangus pointed out last week on our show, Darren, and I thought it was so eloquently said, that you learn more in your first year than you ever learn in being a head coach. And I think for South Carolina fans, I think we all knew that, and even not South Carolina fans, Darren, actually, I think you were one of the first to really point this out, is that, there's going to be a learning curve, and people need to understand that there's going to be some bumps in the road, and it's going to be a building process, and you're going to have to learn on the job a little bit. But none of us knew what learning on the job was necessarily going to look like until now. Now we see where they are, where they're deficient, where they've improved, where they haven't improved, and things of that nature, right? So now we're 8 weeks in, and we see the decisions that he is having to make and evaluate at this point in time. So there's a little bit more, if you're being a little bit open-minded about this, of an understanding of where Shane Beamer is in becoming a head coach. And then what type of head coach is he is based on the decisions that he makes. And so we're going to have to see what those look like. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of frustration out there, and I kind of peaked last night at the teleconference, and I've got my 2 little girls by myself right now, so there's not a lot I can do when one's literally peeing in the middle of the yard and another one's throwing rocks at her. But
shouldn't be peeing in the middle of the yard.
Literally just walked out, took her drawers off, and started peeing in the middle of the yard like a dog. I couldn't believe it.
So the other one threw rocks. There you go.
She threw rocks at her. I was like, guys, you don't never just come inside. Darren, I can't get on this train of beating up Coach Beamer based on what he says in press conferences. I can't get on this train of beating him up either over how he may act in a press conference. I can't do that, because we all know what they say in a lot of these press conferences. It's window dressing, right? I mean, so, when he's asked last night, and I think, Mike, you've asked him the question, you should ask this. You're a reporter. It's your job. Are you considering any changes? Well, if he says yes, I mean, what's the fallout going to be here? Wait, somebody in there's going to be, well, wait, what? Like, you can't say things like that unless you've already addressed the change, unless you've already made it with your staff and with your team. So I mean, how do you answer the question? You either say no, which maybe that means no, maybe that means no to the media, but behind the scenes, I'm trying to figure it out here. Or you say, yes, we've already made a change and here's what it is, which generally these coaches will lead off with that comment in the top of a PC anyway. So, I don't get all beat up about how he acts in these things or what he says. I like Shane. I don't think he's handled this publicly terribly, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I do know that behind the scenes, it's not like he's not holding people accountable. He's doing everything he can to do that. But if you ask me what's my opinion based on all this, I think change is absolutely necessary. You got a bye week, and it can't be any worse. I mean, it honestly just can't be any worse, Darren. You could have called plays and gotten them 11 yards in 3 quarters. I mean, that's just beyond pitiful. It's bad.
So, yeah, there's problems, right? It's not – Marcus Satterfield is not the only problem here. He is a very easy – clear target because there are questionable play calls at questionable moments and results that speak to not having any type of success on the field, not just in statistical numbers, but in the general casual fan's eyes. You can watch and say, wait a second, what's happening? So it's very, very easy. And you gotta want, a lot of fans do, what's the reason? What's the change I can make to make us better right now? And you touched on this. Is it better to make a change now, or is it better to make a change afterwards? And what would the impacts be? That's a question you got to ask on the inside of that program, because what's the impact? If you remove somebody from the staff, is that felt like a good thing in the locker room? Does that hurt the locker room? I don't know the answer to that question right now.
Right.
I'm sure players are frustrated. I mean, that's human nature. You're going to be frustrated. But removing somebody from the situation right now in the first year of a coaching staff, 8 games into the season, granted, that's what, like 2/3 of the way through. So we're into the back half of the season. I don't think it's the right move personally. I think the better move, as Beamer learns, is to go through this year, try and figure things out schematically, what he wants to do, what he wants his team to look like, who he really wants to lean on for input, a lot of these questions. And a lot of these things then boil down to, okay, now that I've gone through this checklist, then do I need to make any changes in my house? And if I do, what are those changes? Are we moving people, changing assignments? Are we removing people? I don't know. But I do know that this is a process. And as you learn as much or more than you ever do in your first year of coaching, like Coach Mangus said, we'll give him the year. Let him learn through the year, because there have been plenty of moments this year where it's like, I don't know if he would have done that. And maybe with a year's worth of experience, would he make a different decision later? I don't know. I don't know the question. I don't think it's right to make a move now, because this is the first year. There is a lot of learning and growing to do for Beamer and for the staff. And I think you get through the year and you see what's left. That's my feeling now. Now, if you go through the bye week, come out of the bye week and get smashed, I don't know. Maybe I change my opinion on that. As for Beamer in the press conferences, it's complete window dressing. And Beamer is positive. That's who he is. That's why you hired him. That's been his mantra from day zero before he got the job. That's the guy you got. That's who you hired. You don't want him changing. You want him to keep pushing that message.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting, guys. We really appreciate y'all. All these comments are these are some different views here. Robbie says the kids have been through 3 offensive systems in 3 years. I think you got to wait until the end of the year to make a coordinator change. Ryan said plenty of other schools have much less in terms of talent, are doing much more in terms of results. That's the baseline of this decision. Aaron, players have been visually upset at numerous points this season. David, you're right. I mean, simplify the offense, cut down on penalties, and reduce execution errors. And we've been saying that since week 1. These are the 3 keys to the offense right now. The thing with all of this is I don't know that anybody like Darren. I disagree with you, Darren, but it doesn't mean that you're wrong, and it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Like I think we're all kind of in the same ballpark as like, hey, change is probably necessary. It's just a matter of when. And if you make it now, does that help you or hurt you? Now, with that being said, I know we got to get to break and get Wes in here. With that being said, I'll add a caveat to that. If you have a cancer in your locker room, whether it's a player or a coach, you remove them. Period. I've always been like that. You don't let that fester. Get it out of there. If you got to kick a guy off the team, you kick him off the team. If you got to get rid of a coach because he's got issues with other coaches or other players or whatever it is, you get rid of them and you figure out.
If that's the case,
then you move on.
Absolutely. And it's just
That's
like Lynn J. Dixon over at Clemson. If there's a problem, it's better that the problem is not with the team. It benefits the team. But I haven't seen anything concrete that there is. If there is a problem, do something about it and tell us why you did it and what the problem is. Until then, I can't go down that road.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're in speculation mode. Now, don't get me wrong. I've heard a lot of things, and I know that there's some truth in some of the things that I've heard. I don't know that it's enough truth to say, well, it's all bad. And then there's some other things out there that I don't think there's much merit to some of those rumors. So, but if there is, that's a fireable offense. This guy doesn't work. We're going to come together without him, and we're going to move forward. And you save face by doing that as well. Hey, we did the best with what we could with having to get rid of a guy who wasn't any good for us. But again, you got to have proof of that. And I don't necessarily have it. So I can't sit here and tell everybody that that's exactly what needs to happen because Marcus Satterfield has done this, that, or the other. Like, I can't say that. But I do want to hit on one. Stephen Feinbaum saying you can see Beamer leaving for VT if VT comes open. I don't. I would disagree with Paul on that. I don't see that. But I want to hit on Brandon's comment here, and then let's get to a break so we can get Wes in. This goes way deeper than play calling. The scheme is bad. The personnel decisions are even worse. The philosophy makes no sense, and the compound and everything is very, very predictable. Brandon, that is literally the best description that you could use, and that's what I said earlier about the core of the apple is rotten. It's not like, well, play calling needs to be better. Well, it's all bad. And when it's all bad, the leadership is bad. And I'm not saying necessarily it's Shane. Shane has employed a bunch of people and given them a job, and their job is to go out and do their job. Mm-hmm. And that's what you are when you're a CEO. And when you fail, you get rid of them. And when you succeed, you promote them or you reward them or whatever it is. That's the role that he's in right now. This has failed miserably. The offense has failed miserably. Brandon, that's a great description. I really appreciate that. I might jot that down and continue to kind of come back to it, because it's not one thing or the other. The play calls on the goal line and the personnel mismatches and 3 receivers standing in one spot and things like that, those are all microcosms of a larger problem, which is the whole thing is just not good.
But while that is true, like it goes to sort of what I said, dude, there are a lot of issues here. And with all those issues that are just laid out in this comment right here, like you just read off, that's not just Satterfield. That's a lot of people who are working together, and this is happening. There's got to be a reason for why. It is not one guy who is the reason why.
I would disagree with that a little bit, because sometimes there is. I mean, if you have full control, which from what I understand, full control runs through his office of that offense.
And someone gave him full control.
Well, yeah.
Not one guy.
Yeah, Shane has to be accountable for it.
Everyone's responsible. That's right.
But I mean, Pete Limbo's got full control over special teams, and that's worked out. Clayton White's had, they can't stop the run, but overall defensively they've improved this year, and they have full control as well. So I mean, Shane's job is you're going to have to clean that up. You're going to have to get rid of a guy that's tearing you apart. And if other coaches don't have input because one guy didn't let him have input, you got to get rid of the guy. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. So, Clint, I agree. I think that right now, I hate to say it, but I think Mark Satterfield is the core of the problem here. They get worse. Can't get worse, man. You got to get better. Even with losses, you got to get better. Tennessee got beat by 28 points, and Tennessee fans aren't waking up today going, well, we got worse. They got better by playing at Alabama. Yeah, jeez. All right, Darren, we're late, so let's get to a break. When we return, some kick times to pass along, and we'll also pass along to you Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor, Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
All right, 12:35 Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases, motleyrice.com. 7:30 kick time for Florida and South Carolina, just announced by the SEC Network. That was a little bit surprising to me, to be honest with you. You know what else is surprising on that week? LSU and Alabama, this is an or type situation. They've got Georgia, Missouri, Auburn, A&M, so it's on a 6-day hold for those 3. But LSU and Alabama, guys, might kick off in Tuscaloosa at 11 a.m. When's the last time LSU and Alabama played before 3:30? Hey, Wes, nice beard, man. Look good.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Oh, you know how we're doing. The Braves are in the World Series.
I figured that's exactly how Wes was going to start, not this like downtrodden.
No, I'm good. I was trying to figure out if he was making fun of my beard or complimenting my beard. So
no, I'm a beard guy.
I didn't know how to respond at first, and I'm hoping to have some World Series tickets posted or purchased, I should say, while we're doing the segment.
Wait a second. Well, I tell you what, Brian Shoemaker must be paying you some good money now.
Hey, I mean, it's been over 20 years, so I mean,
if you get a chance,
you have the opportunity, you take the opportunity.
Yeah. I flew to DC on the last absolute minute. If you get a chance to go to a World Series, you go, man.
You just go, right? You just gotta go. We've made the decision, like whatever it takes, we're just going. So at some point this weekend, I'm gonna be in Atlanta, even if I have to just parachute down into the stadium and just find a way in that way.
It's amazing that they're back. It's just amazing. 22 years from the last time they played. Gene Sapikov joins us from the Battery coming up here in about an hour on our program, as a matter of fact. Not a lot of batteries in the Gamecocks offense, Wes. It's been that way since the whole week, the whole year, the whole
solid.
Whatever.
You like that segue?
That was solid, yeah.
Not too shabby there, huh? Yeah, I mean, look, it's Wes. We got Perry coming up in just a little bit, and we can go back and forth on play calls and stuff like that. I mean, none of that matters. I mean, they had 15 yards of offense through 3 quarters. Let's just talk about the meat on the bone, man. Everybody wants to talk about it, so let's talk about it. What do you do? I mean, I described earlier where I'm not going to go back and do it again, but I described earlier how I view Shane's position from both angles, from a fan side, from the leadership standpoint of his own locker room and his own staff. How do you view the spot that he is in after 8 games and now with a bye week on deck?
Yeah, I think I'll put myself right in there with the fans, man. I get the frustration right now because we're, nobody's really seeing a lot of progress on the offensive side of the ball. And I think, I was listening right before I came on. I mean, I agree. You can see progress even if you're getting beat by what I think is an outstanding Texas A&M football team. I really I know they had the quarterback issue earlier in the year, but to me, the way they're playing right now, they look like a title contender, even though I know they have the 2 losses. But man, it really, to me, in a lot of ways, when you play teams like that, it exposes your issues even more. Not that we needed it in this case to be able to see some of the issues. I think we all, look at the last 2 weeks. The fact that you couldn't consistently do anything against Vanderbilt, which is like on the completely other end of the spectrum as far as talent goes and what they've done this year. And then you face a team where I would say that's going to be the best defense South Carolina faces other than Georgia this season. And you sort of, I would think if you're a South Carolina fan, you would want to see, well, there was progress from when South Carolina played Georgia compared to now playing A&M. And, we just haven't seen that, man. That graphic, that got posted. I can't remember how much time was left in the third, but 6 yards of offense compared to like almost 500 or whatever with A&M. To me, that a picture speaks 1,000 words. Like that was the picture right there, man. That tells the whole story. We can talk about play call, scheme, quarterbacks, offensive line coaches, whatever. We can talk about it all, but that result sort of just told the story for me, man. That's hard. That's hard to defend that. And to me, it just showed how far there is to go as far as like rebuilding this roster as well. When I look at what A&M puts on the field, man, those guys are almost, I know Alabama's like the blueprint for everybody, but A&M, that's a pretty good blueprint too, if you can start looking like that roster.
Yeah, it is. To be fair to the conversation, they have a really good looking football team over there, and Zach Calzada has gotten better every week, as you probably expected he would under Jimbo Fisher. This guy is a magician when it comes to teaching and training quarterbacks. But at the same time, Wes, I don't know. I don't think that Carolina fans, everybody in sport is, in my opinion, you should hate to lose more than you enjoy winning. I hate losing. So I think everybody does hate to lose, but at the same time, I think everybody understood what was on deck here as you entered 2021. It's you say it's not a rebuild all you want to. It is. It's a rebuild. People have been willing to give time, but you got to show progress with time, and that's not there in that area. So, with that being said, I mentioned I'm not trying to put you in a bad spot here, but I don't want to be tone deaf to what everybody wants to talk about. Okay. You know what I mean? And we can't act like that. We can't avoid this monster in the room here. And the monster in the room says that Shane Beamer, as it pertains to the future of this offense, has 4 decisions. You move forward with no changes, period. You move forward and make changes at the end of the year. You make a change now, or you make a change, or three choices, whatever it is, or you don't make a change. So when you have this conversation, you're going to talk about it today, I'm sure, on GC Live. We don't have any choice. How do you talk about this? Like, what do you do here?
Yeah, I think I don't foresee a change taking place before the season's over. I guess that could always change as well. I think people get that quote that's below me right now. If people are watching the video version of the show, my confidence level is fine with all of our coaches. That people will read into that quote and people will get upset about that quote. That's what a head coach is going to say, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what a head coach has to say.
Window dressing, absolutely.
To me, the biggest concern here is if you do not show just some absolute major strides of improvement, during these final 4 games, you guys know I always have a recruiting mindset on things. How do you recruit better players, and hold on to your current players with what they have seen on offense?
Can I interrupt you real quick? There you go. I know they have to recruit. We all know that. All the coaches are out recruiting this week. You're going to have this might not be the most talented roster in the world, Wes, but you've been doing this a long time, man, and I thoroughly have always respected your opinion. This roster is not void of talent. There's enough there to do way more than they're doing on the offensive side of the football, and you have to keep adding to it, but you can't take 2 steps backwards before you take another step forward. So if you get roster attrition, big name roster attrition like a Lloyd or a Harrison, I don't know. I don't have any insight on this. But guys like that who are like, dude, I either I'm not going to move forward with this guy or whoever they replace him with, I'm not like, you can't have that. You have to guard against attrition when you're rebuilding as well, especially the transfer portal and all that out there. I think that's a big piece to this, Wes, something you have to guard against now that you used to not have to guard against.
Yeah, it is, man. And I think if they're going to add talent, you have to have something to point to, and you have to have an excitement level. You need some juice. Like that's what I call it. You need something that kids get excited about. And right now on offense, it's hard not to compare the offense to the defense and to the special teams, and not that those areas have been great by any means, not that they've been perfect by any means, I should say. But I just feel like you look at the other areas and they have overachieved, or at least achieved up to the standard of maybe what I think their talent level is. Whereas you look at the offense and it's just, I go back, man, 6 yards deep into the third quarter. Like that's something I dare say. I don't even think this is a controversial thought. Other recruiters will use that against you. Like that's something they can use against you if you're in a head-to-head battle. So I think, man, you have to, if you're going to recruit these kids, that these kids want to play in high octane offenses. And, is there a chicken or the egg conversation here? You have to have great players. We all know that. But, I'll go back to the easiest argument there is. Look at what South Carolina did in the running game last year with similar players. 4 out of the 5 starters are back on the offensive line. The running backs are back. You add Marshawn Lloyd to that. Although I think the rehab, like coming back from the injury, has affected Marshawn a little bit, in my opinion. Kevin, coming off the back surgery affected him, but still you're in the 8th. You're in the 8th game of the season, and there's been constant issues with the running game. It hasn't just been when you face Texas A&M, because Carolina didn't run the ball against A&M at all last year either. They couldn't, but against teams they should be able to run the football against, it has not happened. So to me, I use that example just because it's the easiest, like A to A example when you look at the talent that is at South Carolina right now compared to last year. Most of those guys are back.
Wes Mitchell, Gamecock Central. So you said something earlier, and I totally agree. Darren and I already hit this. It's not the examples anymore. Like, obviously after the game this weekend, Wes, people, Jason Brown should be playing. Well, he played against their 3rd string defense. It has nothing to do with who is at quarterback. It has nothing to do with Dylan Wonham being out. It has nothing to do anymore with poor play calling on the goal line at Tennessee. I mean, Wes, I asked you a question last week and you couldn't answer it. I couldn't either. Who are their best players? And they're in week 9 and we still don't know, like personnel groupings. I mean, every week there's a different conversation to be had and the production is getting worse. They don't even remind everybody they beat Vanderbilt by 1 point. I mean, they beat Vanderbilt, ECU, and Troy by a combined 13 total points, boys and girls. So, I mean, the core of the apple is rotten, and I guess what I'm getting at is change inevitable at South Carolina? Not Coach Beamer. I mean, everybody's saying that. Throw that narrative out the window. That's not happening. But do you believe, if asking you today on October the 25th on the offensive side of the football, the leadership on the offensive side of the football is change inevitable? It's just a matter of time.
I don't know if I can say it's inevitable, but I think the chances, I'll say it like this. If I'm looking at it, not even from an information standpoint, just from a what may have to happen standpoint, you can't recruit to what we're seeing on the field right now. So I'm not saying that as in like I know what Shane Beamer is thinking or I've heard what he's thinking or any plans like that. I'm talking about my own common sense. This just may not work. I mean, we've seen it for 8 weeks. So again, I think my guess is we're going to see what happens throughout the rest of the season and finish this thing out. But I haven't seen a lot on the field, to make me think it's going to change much at this point. But, who knows? I guess crazier things have happened. We'll see. I do want to say, even though Jason Brown was doing that against backups, if it's me making the decision, I'm seeing a little more of 15 down the stretch here too, just because I've got to know, right? Because I almost look at quarterbacks kind of the way NFL teams do now. It's like they draft a guy, they bring him in, and then they give this guy a shot, right? And then they give the guy a shot, they give the guy a shot, they give the guy a shot, right up to the point that they say, we don't think this is our guy. And then they start looking for their next guy, and the cycle repeats itself. Well, we know Doty is out. We know Zeb Nolan is, does not have another year of eligibility after this season. Not that South Carolina should just give up on the Final Four games. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if Jason Brown is a gamer, as Beamer has called him, then I want to see a little more of 15 because he does have another year of eligibility left. I just want to see what he's capable of down the stretch in a little bit more of a real game situation, if that makes sense.
That's fair. I hadn't thought about it that way. You got to know.
Point, everything's fair. When you're talking personnel, it ties into the same conversation you were having with who's the best player. Everything makes sense at this point. You got to try and figure something out, have some handle on what you've got better at the end of the year than you've got the handle now.
Yeah, I mean, Darren, to your point, they had 15 yards of offense after 3 quarters. 15 yards after 3 quarters. Like, put the water boy out there. What about Colton Gauthier? I mean, I think he got a snap or 2 in the first game. I mean, how's he progressed? Is he a guy that they would consider just trying to get some snaps? I mean, we have to. Wes, I hate saying it like this. I got to remind everybody. I got to look at the glass a little bit half full here. They're still just 2 wins shy of going to a bowl game. I mean, and like if you want to be really optimistic, Missouri isn't good, and I mean Clemson hasn't been any good either. So like there are winnable games left. Now the pessimistic side is what our eyeballs have told us the last 7 weeks, which is, they're not. Carolina ain't good. So but with that being said, I mean, I'm not saying just throw in the towel and play everybody so you can see what they look like. But what about Colton Gauthier? I mean, how's he doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think Colton has progressed from. I'm not sure what is going on with my lighting, you guys. I'm not in a closet. I don't know what is happening, but it looks like there's no lights. But anyway, Colton has progressed. I just think, you know what? This goes back to the fact that you are running a fairly complex offense. And, Colton's still a true freshman. I think, to me, that sort of goes back to some of the other issues we've seen on offense as well, is that, hey, is this thing just too difficult to learn quickly for college players who have, and this has nothing to do with them. It's more about the logistics of playing college ball. You got 20 hours a week. And, I look at Tennessee and I say they installed their scheme pretty quickly and pretty efficiently. And, I think, I'll go back to what Beamer said. Colton in the spring, when he had the extra day in between practices to install, then go back, go over film, process it all, then go back out the next day, put into practice what he learned the day before and the day before that. He was really, really pretty solid and above kind of ahead of schedule. But then, a freshman trying to learn what is essentially an NFL offense, it's really hard. And that's why, I thought Jason moved around better than you would have expected based on the comments about Brown's skill set, this preseason as well. So I think he does add a little bit. Zeb's we know what Zeb is. I mean, it's not a situation where he's going to give you a lot in the running game. So I think I just like to see what Jason could do with a true opportunity to go play with a game plan around him.
Well, they got Florida coming in next, 7:30 kick on the SEC network, just announced a little while ago. So it's going to be another challenge for South Carolina football. You know what? Real quick here. Do you know what coaches are off campus this week recruiting? Do you have a list of the coaches that will be out recruiting?
I don't. I know that Beamer will be out today. And it's just Beamer today, and staff will have – so Carolina's current team will practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They'll lift Thursday morning, and then Thursday and Friday, Beamer will be out both days, and the majority of the staff will be out both those days as well. I need to see it. At one point, there was a rule that you can only have, I think it's 7 of the guys out at one given time. There was talk about them doing away with that rule. That's kind of a very fine print, not really a rule anybody talks about type thing. But I don't know if they still have that rule or not. So I don't want to say they're all going to be out, because if that rule is in place, they obviously won't be. But there was talk about doing away with that rule, I think. So we'll just say that the majority of the guys will be out and about on Thursday and Friday.
Will you be keeping an eye on that? I'm asking this question, yes, for a reason. I mean, obviously, in trying to predict an unpredictable future right now with South Carolina's current staff, I mean, is it worthwhile keeping an eye on whether Marcus Satterfield is actually on the road talking with players or not? I mean, is that something we should think much into or no?
But probably not from that aspect. We'll be tracking it in terms of letting our subscribers know who they're going to see. We're going to have Beamer stops. If it hadn't been posted already, it'll be posted on Gamecock Central today, and then we'll be tracking it later in the week where they're going to go. But I don't. Right now, I think generally in the coaching community in this a situation like this, the coaches you have to just carry on until you're told not to, so usually, and that's what I expect. I think these last 4 games, they'll carry on as is. And then obviously, as Beamer has said, you evaluate everything. And, I think they'll evaluate that after the season. But again, I go back, the fans getting caught up in that little comment. That's what a coach has to say. Unless he's making a move tomorrow, which he's not, that's what the coach has to say.
Yeah, or if he's already made the move. And generally, if they'd already made the move, they lead off the PC or the teleconference with, want to let y'all know this is a move that we've made. It's window dressing. Totally agree, Wes. We talked about that earlier. I mean, I would not, don't zero in on these comments, but guys like Wes and Mike Uva and David Cloninger and everybody else, you're going to ask the questions. You have to. It's your job. But, it's also his job to protect his program, and he's doing what he thinks he needs to do that. Hopefully they can win a couple in November. 3 of the last 4 games are inside of Williams-Brice Stadium, and we'll see what that looks like. Wes, we'll let you run. I know you got GC Live coming up at 2 o'clock today, so what, are y'all going to talk about the Braves, or what are you talking
Just
about?
the Braves. That's it. Braves and maybe some barbecue talk or something.
Oh!
Yeah, we'll see.
I haven't had good barbecue in a while. I could use some.
Yeah, everybody can use some good barbecue. Yeah. If you're having a bad day, just go have some barbecue, then take a nap.
Or if Carolina's set to play football, have some barbecue, take a nap before they kick off. Yeah.
Yes.
Or as they kick off. Wes, thank you, man. Have a wonderful afternoon. I hate to get into all these type things. They're all hypothetical, and I understand that at this point in time, but it's what people want to talk about, and it
is. You're right. I mean, it's the elephant in the room, and the elephant is too big to ignore. So I get it. I get it. Y'all have a good one, guys.
Thank you, buddy. There you go. Wes Mitchell, Gamecock Central. GC Live coming up in about an hour, 2 o'clock. As soon as we get off the air, just flip it over, and you can hang out with Wes and Chris with GCC. All right, time for a timeout. Power Hour brought to you by Wanda Power Equipment is up next. Back-to-back guests. Gene Sapikoff will wrap us up at 1:35 live from the Battery in Atlanta, Georgia. Braves set to go tomorrow night in the World Series. So going to be a neat report from there. But leading off the top of hour 2, we do have Perry Orth, more on Carolina. We're also going to get into the OT stuff up there in Penn State. What a wild game I felt for my friend Darren Goldwater on Saturday afternoon. So we got plenty to lump into the final 60 minutes or so. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, will be right back. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and 2 others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, final hour, Monday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases, motleyrice.com. JB and Darren, follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater. Individually, you can find us at Darren Goldwater and at Sports Media JB. Again, Gene Sapakoff coming up in about 30 minutes, live from the Battery in Atlanta. But first, live from Columbia. I can't come up with that. I was gonna never mind. It's Perry Orth, our quarterback. Yeah. I had a battery joke, but I thought it might not go that well. So it's just Perry. Hey, Perry.
Hey, it's just Perry. How you doing?
Well, I'm fine, Perry. How are you? The Braves are in the World Series. Gamecocks are playing football still. It's all good, man.
You know, it's funny. I didn't realize that the Braves hadn't made the World Series since 1999.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, growing up in Jacksonville, Florida, I was, you know, I know a lot of South Carolina folks are not going to like it, but grew up a Marlins fan and, you know, watched us win the World Series in 2003. And, you know, we had a good team, couple good teams in there, you know, every once in a while, but good for the Braves, man. Good for the folks of South Carolina, both Carolina and Clemson fans, because I tell you, we both fan bases needed it.
Yeah, I think Braves are they're gaining more yards than the Gamecocks are these days. That's for sure. These days, it's pretty embarrassing stuff right now for South Carolina's offense, Perry. So I want to kind of go inside the mind of Perry Orth, the player now, and let's just start with the frustrations of a season, because when you were at South Carolina, when you first got there, you saw the highs. Y'all won 11 games. And then by the end of your career, you'd certainly have been around the lows and only winning 3 games at some point in time before Coach Muschamp took over. And I think you won 6 that first season. So they're 4-4. Don't have to give specifics necessarily. I don't need to about all the issues we have. We've got a full message board of those today. Everybody knows what the issues are offensively. But now you've got a bye week coming off of a horrible offensive performance. So if you're a player, like, what is this time like right now for Gamecock football, the kids that are putting the uniform on?
Yeah, it's tough. Like you said, I've been a part of a team that went 3-9, and it's tough to go out there and, you know, perform when you get beat the way you did and the way you have a couple times. And I guess now that I'm a coach, it's easier for me to talk about, but as a player, it's ultra frustrating. You know, a lot of the kids, and I'll speak for myself here, come from winning programs in high school and have always won in their entire life. You know, the 3-9 football team that I was on at South Carolina was the first team I'd ever been on with a losing record ever in my life, whether it was basketball, football, or baseball. I mean, it was actually insane for us to lose. And you kind of, you're like, what in the world is going on? And you're trying to figure it out. I can only speak for myself and the guys that I played with. And it was like, you'd play hard, but the second you'd get close, you know, that bad play would happen and kind of take the game right out of your hands. And so that was frustrating, but you know, the guys need to take this off week, kind of regroup in a way. You know, if you're banged up, sit out, let the young kids practice and get your reps, and regroup, take a breath of fresh air, go home, go to the beach, go to the mountains, go do something other than football, get your mind off of it. So you come back after ready to work, ready to re-energize yourself for the last month of the season to get to a bowl and get to postseason. It's still out there. We need this week to kind of regroup and put the first 8 games behind us, even though we are 4-4, which is great. But I tell you, it has been a tough 4 wins and a very tough 4 losses.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't feel like that. I mean, their losses outside of they have 3 losses that they didn't have a prayer in: Georgia, Tennessee, and A&M. The Kentucky loss, they absolutely had opportunities to win the game and just shot themselves in the foot over and over and over and over again. It turns out that's kind of who this offense is. They do it often. 3 of their 4 wins are by a combined 13 total points, and those 3 wins are against East Carolina, Troy, and Vanderbilt, Perry. So, you know, when it doesn't feel like 4-4. But is there a way for the football team, for the players, to erase 8 games, the good and the bad, and try to wipe the slate clean with November coming up, and 3 of those 4 games in November inside of your own building at Williams-Brice?
Yeah, I mean that. I think for me, the way I did and kind of was able to refresh is you just get away from it, get away from the game, go hit the golf ball, go home and visit high school friends, and do whatever it is to get your mind off of it. Because it just, when you lose like that going into a bye week, you just kind of dwell on it. And then for the coaching staff, kind of the same thing. Get your mind off of it, shake it off, regroup, and realize that, you know, we have to do some things differently if we want to have a chance of playing in the postseason. And you know, I don't know whatever that looks like for all of the players and the coaches. They need to find a way to kind of escape. Obviously, have a good week, let the young guys play and get those reps, and have, you know, continue to develop the talent that you do have. Recruiting's huge during the bye week. I know Coach Beamer's already talked about hitting the trail pretty hard. The biggest thing, man, and I can't emphasize it enough, is just continuing to relax, take the edge off, go and do something fun, get your mind off of it. Football's a grind. A lot of people don't really realize it unless they've been in it. And with the season that we've had so far, it's much needed.
Perry Orth, former quarterback of South Carolina. Perry had a gentleman on you know very well last week with us, a guy that I respect immensely, and your former quarterback's coach, G.A. Mangus. And we talked a lot of offense with him, and Darren and I kind of made it a point to just talk, you know, just talk offense, just talk scheme, and the way that things, the way that he sees it, you know, not that the way he sees it is the only way to see it. I get that, but I like to pick the brains of guys like you and Coach Mangus and others who understand it well. And you know, he described a lot of things, Perry, that contrast immensely to what South Carolina does right now. He wasn't taking a shot at this offense. He wasn't throwing anybody under the bus, didn't mention anybody or anything, just talking about it in itself, talking about spacing and how you should space guys out, make them cover an entire field, not have 2 receivers or 3 receivers in the same area, make sure dudes know who to block, make sure running backs know where to go. But Perry, the question I'm asking you is, those problems, you see a lot of that early on in the season. What does it tell you when you see those problems after 7 and 8 games?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question. It's like, you know, I think I mentioned it on this show this year. As a salesperson, you may have an incredible knowledge of your product, but if your message that you're trying to portray to your client or your prospect is not being received, and they're not understanding what you're saying, that's on you. And that, it goes the same thing in coaching. I mean, I obviously don't coach at the Division I level, but, you know, at AC Flora, you know, I'm coaching a kid who's never played quarterback before, and he's got talent, he's got ability, but, you know, early in the season, we've had some struggles, and we weren't playing as well at that position as I'd like. And so I had to completely change the way that I coach, that I felt was beneficial for me to benefit him. You know, even in the way that we watch film, like dumbing it down to basic stuff like, hey, before every snap, I want you to point at the safety or the safeties that are back there. So, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, if the middle of the field is open or closed, because that's going to tell us, like, very, very elementary things to help him understand what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that goes the same way for the guys at South Carolina or whatever other staff. If your message is not being portrayed and they're not executing at the level that you'd hope or that you'd want, you may need to try to change it up and continue to play with different coaching styles for your guys to better understand it. Because if you know, the age-old adage in athletics or in life, if you do something over and over again and expect a different result, they call that insanity. and so we've got to try maybe different coaching styles. Maybe it's not the scheme, maybe it's just the message that and the delivery of which we're saying it can change. I'm not sure. I'm not at practice, but again, like I said, over the bye week, that's a great way to evaluate. You do a lot of self-reflecting during an off week, and you kind of get a different taste. It slows down a little bit, so you're able to see, like, okay, maybe this didn't work. This is maybe not exactly what we wanted, and you get to try different things out. So that's coming from a former player and now coach's perspective.
So I'm trying to find the right way to ask this question, Perry, because what I don't want to do is imply something on this program that's going to get you in trouble or get me in trouble with some false narrative out there. But just hear me out. I'm going to do everything I can to explain this the way that I've thought about this the last couple of days, because I think we just need to all be honest with what our real concerns are at this point in time. If you care about South Carolina football, it's an honest moment right now, and we need to have them. So, what I'm asking here, all right, so you mentioned being a salesperson. All right, Perry. And I've done sales. Darren, you've done, matter of fact, you and I did sales for the same guy one time.
Good times. Let's talk about those.
Good times and great oldies. You're right. So, Perry, if I'm trained, or if you're trained, or Darren, or anybody out there is trained to do something, to sell a product, and we go out there and we're doing what we've been told to do and taught to do based on our training, and we basically can't get it right every week. It's our results aren't there. We make a lot of mistakes, and then we come back in and they keep trying to fix those mistakes, and we go out and we make the same mistakes. At what point in time would I, as an employee, or Darren, you as an employee, or Perry, finally say, man, this place just isn't for me? I mean, they're teaching me to do something that I'm doing and it's not working. So why I need to go do this somewhere else. I'm trying to relay that conversation to football and offense specifically, because the way that I see this from the outside looking in is a lot of these kids are literally doing everything that they can possibly do, that they're being coached to do and taught to do. And then they go out there on Saturday, and what they've been taught to do, is it working? I mean, you had two guys blocking each other again this weekend. They're looking at each other going, why the hell are you hitting me and why am I hitting you? That doesn't make any sense. And so at what point in time do you as a player say, I'm doing everything I'm asked to do around here and it's still not good enough? We're still making the same mistakes or more of them. I just want to try to do this somewhere else. And obviously what I'm hinting at here is what players basically say, Carolina ain't for me anymore. I'm moving on. When I'm trying to describe that, because I want you as a player to kind of put yourself back in that moment and maybe utilize some of what you saw or went through as a player and try to relay that to today in South Carolina football and how this football team might be affected from the inside out right now.
Yeah, that's a great question. That actually is not where I thought you were going with it.
I'm not going to throw you under the bus, man.
Yeah, no. I mean, as a player, mine was never I don't know. I'm not perfect, but I'm more. I still fall into more of the self accountability. Like, what am I doing wrong? I guarantee you, in Coach Satterfield's offense, he doesn't have two offensive guys blocking each other. And so that's why it goes back to the message that I'm saying. Either the kids are just not good enough or smart enough to get it, which, unfortunately sometimes it happens, or the message that's trying to be portrayed is not being received and it's not being explained thoroughly. It's always hard, and I don't dread coming on your show or any other the folks that I talk with, but it is really difficult because I have enormous respect for people that coach football and folks that play it, and I try to skate and say the right things without trying to come across personal, because I'm not. It just right now we're just not getting it, and hopefully this bye week is a week where we can do kind of a self-evaluation. Like I said, I had to do this year a couple weeks ago with the kid that I coach at Flora, and trying up different coaching styles, trying up different plays, just trying anything and everything to find a meshing point and a groove to where folks are clicking and really, really understanding it and executing at a high level.
So to kind of follow that up, Perry, and again, I'm not, as I tell you every week, I'm not trying to put you in any position here, uncomfortable positions or anything like that. And I'm not advocating for one thing or another, although if you listen to our program earlier today, I kind of voiced what I thought should happen. But I'm asking you from a player's standpoint, because you were in the middle of a big change when Steve Spurrier stepped down in 2015, right smack dab in the middle of the season. What type of challenges are there for a player when you have a coach depart, or when you have coaches change their roles or change their duties and things like that in the middle of the year? How challenging of an adjustment is that for players, and what's it like?
Yeah, it is. It's a big adjustment because you're used to listening to one message and one voice, and sometimes it can be beneficial. Sometimes you can see it and hear it differently. And again, you may be saying the exact same thing with a different delivery or different words, and that may be better received. So yeah, it could be good. It also can be bad. I know that when Coach Spurrier decided to move on, Coach Elliott came in and just had a different way of saying virtually the same stuff with a little bit more energy and more oomph on it. So it helped kind of get us going a little bit when we were kind of in a rut, and we're kind of in a rut right now. And I'm not saying we're going to make a change or anything like that, but sometimes maybe a different voice or a different message can actually help fire people up.
Final question, and then I want to get a couple things outside of Carolina football and make you a part of mine, or a couple of mine and Darren's conversations. But based on what you've seen, they're 8 games in. How could you explain there are no quick fixes, there are no easy fixes, but what is something that comes to the top of your mind that could help this offense at least be serviceable down the stretch period? I ask that because, look, if you can score a couple of points, they're really, it's not like there's 4 world beaters left on the schedule. No disrespect at all to Clemson, Auburn, Missouri, and Florida. I have the utmost respect for all those programs, and they're all better than South Carolina right now. But they're all, if you have a competent offense, you actually could win any of the games. I'm not saying all of them, but you could win 1 or 2 of those games. You could go bowling if you could, score a couple of points here and there.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're exactly right.
So what do you do? I mean, like, like everybody says you need to simplify. What does that mean? How do you simplify? What's that mean?
Yeah, I mean, what that means is calling basic plays that you installed on day 1, 2, 3, and 4 of camp, getting really, really good at it. Correcting the large mistakes and not coaching after the fact type of stuff, but continuing to just refine all of your fundamentals. Obviously I like to talk about real experiences and real life. I don't like to guess and say, oh, well, maybe this. Like, I don't coach in the SEC. I'm not a Power 5 football coach. I don't have the knowledge and experience of coaching at a high level like some of these guys do, but I have played it, and I do have a have a basic understanding of the game, good enough to coach high school. And what we do, and what I try to do coaching my guys, is we throw literally the same route every single day at practice. We, with a few wrinkles here and there based off a game plan. Man, I tell you, the first couple weeks of camp, dude, it was horrible. We couldn't catch, couldn't throw, couldn't do squat. But I tell you, week 9, we go out there and we finish a routes on air session, and we're not seeing balls hit the ground, and it's starting to show up on Friday nights. And Obviously, it's so much more complex in college, and you have to do so much more than just run the same curls and hitches and outs and comebacks and goes that you do in high school. But it's the basic stuff that kids are comfortable now with doing. The other thing too is you have to allow kids to play free. When these high school kids that I'm coaching, if they're tense or they're nervous, they're in their feelings, they're in their head, they don't play well. They play the best when they're having fun and they're playing free. And when kids have an understanding of what's trying to be accomplished, they're able to play a bit freer, which allows them to play better, which helps with confidence. When you're playing with confidence, you just play better. And taking steps like that, starting this week in the bye week, and repping a game plan that you're wanting to do versus Florida, so that when you get out there at 7:30 at night and probably a packed Williams Bryce, you're just repping plays that you've been doing for a couple weeks now, not trying to do too much, a few wrinkles here and there, a few trick plays, a few shot plays, and you just repeat it. I think that's what I liked about Coach Spurrier too, is that, we would put in a ton of plays on Monday, but as the week went along, we would just whittle it down until Thursday. We were like, hey, we like this. I mean, Coach Spurrier was awesome about every game that I played for him and every game that I was part of his program. He asked the quarterbacks, on Friday and Saturday, what do you like? What plays do you want me to call? I mean, this is the greatest play caller, one of the best of all time in our conference in college football. And he's asking us what we like. And I think that gave him a good mindset of where we were and different stuff like that. So it's baby steps, and it's frustrating when you do get your teeth kicked in, but you got to stick to what you do and get good at it and start having some success in practice so they believe they can do it in the game. And, hopefully we can, turn it right and start making plays in the game.
That's a really fascinating tidbit there on Coach Spurrier. Guy, I don't know if I've ever respected an offensive football coach more than Steve Spurrier. And here he is asking y'all, well, Perry, what do you want to do on Saturday, Perry?
Yeah, I mean, he did that. I watched him do that for a full year with Connor. I watched him do it with a full year of Dylan and part of the 2015 season when he was coaching. And if he was doing it those years, I guarantee he was doing it when he was winning national titles and SEC titles at Florida, because you're really only, like I've said from the start of this call, you're really only as good as your players are and how well they're receiving the message that you're trying to portray. And if, you're on the same page as your coach and the guy that's rolling out the game plan and calling the plays, you're going to be successful. And again, and I know I talk in my examples of coaching in high school, not nearly as challenging or as difficult at that level. I just trying to put a positive spin, and I got all the confidence in the world in Coach Beamer, and believe that with his leadership, we'll get it right. And I'm excited, still optimistic for the future. Still love the Gamecocks. Still, love being a part of the program. Still love going and checking out the guys over at the facility, and just hopeful that after the bye week, we'll be able to turn the ship.
The new top 25 parity. Switch gears real quick before I let you run. The top 10 is Georgia, Cincinnati, Bama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Michigan State, Iowa, and Ole Miss. So it's scattered, smothered, and covered with mostly Big Ten SEC programs up there. But one notable team absent from the top 10. I'm sorry, my dear friend
nice
Goldwater, as a Big Tenner themselves, Penn State. They fell 13 spots to 20 because of a 9 overtime loss against Illinois this weekend. It was something we've never seen before because we've never seen this overtime rule before. I wanted to ask you what you thought about the overtime rule as a former player, just 2-point conversions. What did you think about that?
Yeah, it was weird. I did, honestly, man, I didn't even realize they had made that rule because I saw it was in the 8th overtime and it was 18-18. And I was like, how the hell is that even possible? Are they just missing field goals or what? And then they were like, oh, no, you go for it too. What is it, after the 3rd or 2nd overtime?
Yeah, on the 3rd. So, yeah, both. Yeah. After the 2nd, moving forward.
Yeah, on the 3rd. Yeah, I mean, it was – I personally love it because I think as a lesser team, gives you a better chance to win versus having to kind of drive the football a little bit. I mean, you just really have to strike up one play. Some people have different opinions, I mean, if you lose on something like that, you're probably like, what a stupid rule. But when you win, you're like, oh, this is awesome. So you go back and forth, man. I mean, that was a crazy game, though. Good for Coach Bielema, the freaking Fighting Illini went into Happy Valley, got the dub.
As a Penn State grad, I thought the overtime was great. I did, because the game itself was trash, right? So you may as well throw something that you couldn't basically try and say is exciting, and it was, even though they had 10 straight failed conversions at one point to very much exemplify the game being trash, and Illinois goes for 5,000 yards on the ground, and then in overtime decides, let's not run the ball. But I thought it was fun. I mean, I liked it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I didn't. I tell you what I would like to see. I didn't hate it. Like, I love that it being in the moment of you got to make this play or it's over. Like, I really enjoyed that sudden death, do or die part. Mm-hmm. But like, for the sake of football, I would rather see them, if they want to make it to where it's not just kind of dragging on through another quarter or something like that. I'd rather see, after 2 overtimes of the current rule, maybe go from like the 25 and you just get 4 plays. You just get 4 plays to get it in, because it just, to me, that more replicates the game or resembles the game than just going 2 yards on a 2-point conversion. That's me.
If that happened, there was a chance that game would still be being played like right now. Like that.
Yeah, but you could also kick a field goal. Like, it's 4th down, we're going to kick a field goal. You see
okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not on the rules committee, Perry. Maybe we should apply for that.
Yeah, you need to get on the rules committee.
There you go.
Or at least the officials. Perry, I know we've kept you a long time. Thank you so much, man. QB1athletics.com. QB1athletics.com. He is literally, there's nobody that does it like Perry in this state and their staff. They train quarterbacks in a hurry and make you really good. And most importantly, you teach them, which is neat. You teach them the game. And you can do that by heading to QB1athletics.com. Maybe it's going to be a stocking stuffer for someone this year. Lessons with former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth. How neat would that be? QB1athletics.com. Perry, have a wonderful work week. Carolina cannot lose, I don't think, this coming Saturday, as they're scheduled to be off. But the following week they can. Florida. We'll preview that game with you next Monday.
Appreciate it, man. See ya.
There you go, Perry Orth, former QB at South Carolina. Yeah, I not to keep beating the drum. So here would be my fear, Darren. I like, in that moment, it was like, oh my God, this is awesome, because it was awesome. I mean, it was, and I'm with you. I'm like, are these teams trying to both lose? Like, what's happening here? But I also pictured, like, what if Alabama and Georgia were in the SEC championship game and that was happening in like the 5th overtime? Like, I wouldn't want the game decided like that. I'd rather it be more football.
That's the other side to it, right? So for it's almost like you could wish you could choose your overtime depending on the game, because for a game, like, if the game,
which OT do you want? Well,
right,
we suck. So give us the 2.
If it's 45 all in the SEC championship game, I don't know if I want a shootout after 2 overtimes. But if it's nothing, like it felt like this game was, then great. Go ahead, try, make something out of this. I'm sure we'll get more into Penn State tomorrow, but
yeah. I literally texted Darren. I said, I don't know what to say, but I'm sorry. And you were like, I'm okay. So he must have been drinking.
Maybe. I mean, I was laughing in the overtime because, like I just said, at least it was exciting. The rest of the game was almost entirely Illini run left 7 yards. Illini run left 10 yards. That's it. That was the game. Oh, and Sean Clifford can't move.
Yeah.
That was.
Are we talking about Penn State or who? South Carolina? Who are you talking about?
Right. You could the fan bases right now, and throw Clemson into this. They're grumbling about the same thing. They're grumbling about an offensive line. How come there's no depth at quarterback? I don't know. All I know is that was a game. That was something.
Yeah, it was something. That was an unexpected game early on. As Mike Morgan often says, yeah, don't discount the non-sexy weekends in football. You just never know. And boy, I didn't see that coming. All right, here is some good news before we run to break from South Carolina. Got an email earlier, an awesome email. I was so happy to read it from Coach Fink up there that Jalen, well, I guess everybody's seen it now. It's probably all over social media. But Jalen Foster has been named a semifinalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, which goes to the nation's best defensive back. There are only 12 names on that semifinal list, and he is one of them, a former walk-on for the Gamecocks, who now leads the nation in interceptions with 5 after taking one off the right arm of Zach Calzada this weekend over in College Station. That's a great story for that young man. So congratulations to him, and we'll see where that goes as the season continues along for Carolina. All right, it is time for our final timeout. When we return, it's time for Gene Sapikov. He's live from the Battery, not in Charleston, in Atlanta, where the Braves play, and in the World Series here in 2021. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Yes, it is lifting us very high on a Monday afternoon. It's finally sunny here. Rain needed it, though, earlier this morning. And looks to be a cool down headed to the state of South Carolina with fall rolling in. The Fall Classic is rolling in as well. Tomorrow night is Game 1 of the World Series, and this year it features the hot Atlanta Braves for the first time since 1999. Gene Sapakoff is learning about how they may party like it's 1999 if they're able to wrap this thing up over the next couple of weeks against the Houston Astros. He is in Atlanta at the Battery, and he joins us now. What's up, man?
Yeah, you know, Jamie, first of all, they keep playing Party Like It's 1999, talking about 1999. They don't want to get swept, do they? They need some 1995 music. That's what I think. But, hey, I was here at the send-off party, and the buses just left for the airport. So now I'm outside the Clubhouse store, and I intend to go in here and see if they have an Eddie Rosario jersey in your size, Jamie.
in my size. That would be wonderful. I will wear it on the air. Yeah, Gene, this is we haven't seen it in a long time. 22 years. I threw out a couple of little nuggets earlier from 1999. What was happening in our world back then? By the way, the number one song in 1999 was "Believe" by Cher. It was her first number one hit in 25 years. The Braves believe this year, Gene, that they can win this thing. They're the hottest team in the sport. They just took out the mighty Dodgers, but now they've got an organization in the Astros that have been there for 5 straight years, to the championship series for 5 straight years. They've been in the World Series. They've won it. This is going to be a great mountain to climb, but they look up to the task.
It is, and I just heard Brian Snitker tell a crowd of 500 people that seemed as loud as 5,000 people that the Braves were going to bring home a trophy bigger and better than the one that they just received. I think the Braves love this underdog role, and they're underdogs in Las Vegas at least. But, hey, they've had time to get their pitching in order, and when you've got Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Ian Anderson, probably Morton, Fried, and Anderson in that order. I mean, that sounds pretty good to me.
It does. Morton is going to get the start tomorrow night. What, Gene, the fans, first of all, actually, before I even get to that, what are the ticket prices going for over there?
I meant to check that, and I haven't. I really want to go and see what the secondary market is because there's been some stunningly reasonable ticket prices for the postseason in baseball, but I'm not sure it'll be such a buyer's market in Atlanta with just 3 of the games for sure here, and maybe just 2, but probably 3. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Not especially like I said, the secondary market.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this Braves team, Gene, Darren pointed out earlier they were under 500 just a couple of months ago, and here they are. They've credited consistently Alex Anthopoulos for the moves that he's made, but a lot of folks, Gene, have pointed to not making necessarily excuses, but pointing out that the Dodgers didn't have this guy or the Dodgers didn't have that guy or whatever. Well, the Braves are like, hey guys, we haven't had a lot of dudes either. And here we are. Do you sense that same type of mentality, that chip on the shoulder of we keep getting discredited, but we're going to keep proving you wrong?
I'll say this, Gene, before you answer that. Vivid Seats has them right now. It's 706 through 13,650.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
Wow. Okay, there you go. Well, yeah, I mean, I realize the Dodgers did not have Dustin May, Trevor Bauer, Max Muncy, Justin Turner, for part of it, of course, Clayton Kershaw, David Price. I mean, that's a lot. However, no one feels sorry for the Dodgers, who have the biggest media rights deal and just the huge salary every year. And so as far as the Braves go, I mean, without Soroka, without Ronald Acuna, and the guy that people kind of don't want to talk about but was huge is Ozuna. They had to remake that whole outfield, obviously. Great job by Alex Anthopoulos because, none of those guys, Rosario, Jock Peterson, wow. And, Soler, okay. The only guys people were somewhat excited about when they brought him over was Duvall because he'd done well here in Atlanta. But I don't think people thought that was going to be enough to get the Braves maybe even to a division title, let alone into a World Series. So, yeah, they do have the chip on their shoulder. Now they're going against the Houston Cheaters, and it's going to be interesting to see. I think they're going to really have kind of most baseball fans in America behind them.
I agree with that. I think that they will. I think that Gene, every manager in every sport or coach in every sport is always going to be criticized for certain decisions here and there. I think we've seen Brian Snitker and why I think we've seen why he's so good specifically in this postseason. I've mentioned a couple of times, and I wanted to get your thoughts and see who you've talked to around there about Brian Snitker. I've seen him manage the game with a sprinkle of analytics. He's got a lot of old school in him, but he's not unwilling to use today's ways of doing things as a manager. I pointed out earlier that Luke Jackson did not work out again in Game 6 the other night, but Luke Jackson's role has been as a setup man, and he went back to Luke Jackson and he threw him right back into the fire. Of course, he also had a shorter leash to go get him out of there. Will Smith has been the closer all year. He's kept throwing him out there, and now he's pitching his best at the perfect time of the season. So he has a lot of feel, and when you have feel as a manager, your players will really respect you for that. What have you learned about Brian Snitker in your conversations over there in Atlanta?
First of all, I think I may have told you this, but my side hustle for over 15 years with the Post and Courier was covering the South Atlantic League for Baseball America and doing the surveys of manager for their top 10 prospect annual thing every season. Brian Snitker was a manager in that league in 2 different stints in the 90s. And not only would he give me, here's the top 10 prospects who I think are in the South Atlantic League. And, it would be guys like Jeter and Pudge Rodriguez and Vlad Guerrero and stuff. But he would give me just detailed reports of these guys on the other teams and just be so sweet and cooperative. And I kind of got to know him that way and just had so much respect for him. So, when he came up to the Braves, I was rooting for, hey, I hope this just isn't a 1-year thing. Hope this isn't a 2-year thing. Maybe this guy can actually win. There's just such thorough respect for a guy that's been in the organization, A, for 40 years, and B, was hired by the great Hank Aaron.
Absolutely. Wow. Didn't even think about that. That's tremendous. And he's going up against a guy who knew Hank Aaron quite well, Dusty Baker. Who's been around a long time, Gene. What does this mean for baseball, seeing these two guys who have spent their entire lives in the game, with one of them is going to win a World Series this year, but they're head-to-head?
I'm not kidding. And this doesn't usually happen to me, such an old guy, but I got chills when you were just saying that, Jamie, because I remember, Dusty Baker being on those Braves teams. He was on the Braves team in 74 when Aaron hit the homer, that broke Babe Ruth's record. And he had, Hank Aaron really took him under his wing as a, young Black American player. And Dusty Baker has so much respect for him. And so that's cool. And yeah, it really, grabs my groin about the Astros cheating thing, but I have lots and lots of respect for Dusty Baker, what he's done with the Cubs, Reds, Nationals, Giants, and now the Astros. And that is a cool thing. One way or another, the winner of this World Series is going to have a tip of the cap to Hank Aaron for sure. Isn't
this wild? Hank Aaron passed away earlier this year. They had the All-Star game taken away from them in Atlanta. And guess what? The World Series is going to be played there. And the guy who's managing the team opposing them was a beloved son in Atlanta for 7 years, I think, Dusty Baker. The script is writing itself in some way, shape, or form.
Jamie, I am laughing so hard because you are helping me write my column for tomorrow on some of the same kind of stuff. In fact, there was so many funny chit-chat things from the fans and the crowd today, and one of them was, I don't think they're moving the World Series to Denver. So, yeah.
No.
It is so cool that, that 44 that's been in the outfield grass this season for the Braves and that surely will be there during the World Series. Just what a cool tribute.
Yeah, this is so neat how it's all tying in. What do you think nationally this is going to look like, Gene? You mentioned the Astros. There's a lot of people out there that still don't, especially the fringe baseball fans, they still see Houston as what Houston had done 4 years ago. Now the Braves are new blood in the World Series. They haven't been there in 22 years and obviously haven't won it since 95. But nationally, what is this perceived like without the Dodgers, without the Red Sox, the Yankees, some of the more name brand teams in the sport?
Well, it's interesting, and I'd like to know what Darren thinks about this as a great broadcaster. But, how do the broadcasters handle that? I noticed that in the Boston-Houston series, they weren't afraid to address it early in the games because you had the Astros going against a team managed by Cora, and Cora was, one of the key instigators in that Astros controversy. It cost him a year of suspension. I think that TV network-wise and probably MLB office-wise, yeah, you might have rather seen the Red Sox against the Dodgers here, but if they can play up this good guys against former cheaters things, maybe you draw some interest. But then again, you don't really want to dilute your product, which is, the Astros, by bringing that up. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that goes forward in the next week or so.
I think to answer your question, the beginning of the series, I think there'll be some mention of it, but the storylines that you're going to hear over and over are going to be Dusty Baker Houston's payroll that is coming up on them, and then the story of the Braves and Hank Aaron. I mean, you're going to hear those storylines however many games this whole thing goes. It'll come up, but it won't be something they'll hit on a lot.
Yeah.
Hit on. Sorry.
Well,
yeah, Darren, I mean, I bet you're exactly right.
Well, but I'd like to add a storyline to that. Freddie Freeman is a storyline in himself. I mean, he's not only one of the great players in the game, he's one of the great guys in it. And Gene, all of us, we're baseball people. We know who the legends are in Atlanta. And if you win a World Series, all these guys are going to always be legends. But if they can win a World Series specific to Freddie Freeman, where does this put him on that legends list?
Extremely high. And I'll tell you what, I have not spent a lot of time around the Braves in the regular season, but I did spend a few days in spring training 2020, right before the COVID shutdown at their new, facility in Northport. And, I'd done lots of Brave stuff in the years before, but I could see with that team, the young squad and just all the guys and just the reverence for Freddie Freeman in that clubhouse by the Sorokas and Freeds, Acuñas and Albies and Swanson. And I mean, he held court, but in the quiet, dignified, just Freddie Freeman way. And I mean, he has absolutely shaped this squad. And I saw something in the NLCS that I just thought was a beautiful thing. And it was at Dodger Stadium. And Albert Pujols, one of the great all-time players, got a hit and got to first base. And, Freddie was almost hugging him, patting him on the back, laughing. I mean, he really appreciated that. And while I'm not big on fraternization necessarily during the game, I thought that was as class an act as you'll see during a baseball game.
Oh, you're spot on. It was a great. It was almost like a passing of the torch. Freddie, I don't know that he'll have the home run numbers that Albert had. Speaking of which, did we Albert Pujols struck out the other night at the end of the game? Was that his last at bat ever as a big leaguer?
Almost certainly. I just don't see how you can bring him back. Now, he did do really well against lefties this year. I think he hit over 300 strictly in that role. You could possibly see someone rolling the dice on him in the American League, maybe as a DH type guy, but probably that was it.
Yeah. Well, if it was it, I will say, tip my cap to you, because we got to watch Albert Pujols play baseball. It's just incredible. We're going to get to watch the Braves play baseball in Game 1 of the World Series tomorrow night. Joe Buck and John Smoltz. There you go, Gene. There's another one for you. John Smoltz is calling. The last time the Braves were in the World Series, he was pitching for him, and now he's calling the series on TV.
Well, yeah, and I mean, he was obviously with those Smoltz, Clavin, Maddox teams throughout the 90s, and a big part of the 14 straight thing in the 1995 and all that, and had a significantly better postseason record than either Glavin or Maddox. So, yeah, that'll be cool. And you're talking about great insight, and I mean, I think Smoltz is one of the best baseball analysts there has been in the last 20 or 30 years. I
agree. He is smooth as. Hey, I just want to ask this question, Gene. Now, I'm not asking this to you because you didn't laugh at me. You believed. Everybody else was laughing. Anybody remember that stat I threw out at the beginning of the playoffs? The last time the Braves won 4 straight division championships, they won the World Series. Yeah, who's laughing now? So we'll see what happens here.
There you go.
You got to go win. You're on a roll, though, with the prediction. You're one step away.
Got to win. I have nothing to do with how it works out, but, I could look up the stat. All right, Gene, final couple minutes on football here. Braves offense more than likely will score more points in this series than either Clemson or Carolina combined to finish the season, probably. Let's start with the Tigers. They're 4-3, lost this weekend. They shot themselves in the foot early in that game. Will Shipley dropped a touchdown pass. They had a bunch of other drops, but they're still they just kind of are what they are, 4-3, 3-2 in the league. So they're not. Gene, my prediction is they're not going to win any titles, division titles, or anything like that in the ACC. But they do have Florida State, Louisville, and UConn coming up next. Can they get the ship righted with those 3?
It depends on what you mean by the ship righted. I think they can have a winning season and get into a bowl game, but hey, they have not scored more than 19 points in regulation time in an FBS game this season. I don't see what was at all surprising about Pitt. I thought Pitt would win that game. I think Clemson's going to go 3-2 down the stretch. The only game I'm certain of is they will beat UConn by, 35 or 40 points because they happen to be one of the worst teams in FBS. But other than that, every game is up for grabs. This Clemson team they don't have very many good players on offense, and they have too many good players hurt on defense.
They have a ton of injuries. Dabo Swinney was asked the other day about possible changes, just like Shane Beamer was asked yesterday, and Dabo said absolutely not. Of course, as we pointed out earlier in the show, Darren, what coach is going to come out and say, yeah, I'm thinking about making a change, probably maybe a running backs coach, or nobody's going to do that. But Gene, has Dabo reached a crossroads like he did back in 2010, and maybe where change is necessary within his staff?
No, I don't think this is a staff problem.
Okay.
I mean, I have great respect for Dabo Swinney. I think he's the second best college football coach there is active right now, except for Nick Saban. The mistake made was, and I keep repeating this and will continue to do so, they are a year or two late to the transfer portal. And there's nothing wrong with this program that 3 to 6 or 7 transfers will not fix next year, possibly including a quarterback.
Carolina needs 30 to 60 transfers. No, I'm just kidding. Gene, that what we saw Saturday, if you were willing to sit through the whole thing, was beyond putrid. From an offensive standpoint, how do you evaluate this? I mean, you're going to probably be on the call, I'm assuming, tomorrow with Shane, or maybe you won't be. I know DC certainly will be there. I mean, is change necessary right now within that staff? I mean, Marcus Satterfield, I'm just going to be blunt about it. I think this experiment with him is, and this isn't personal, but it's just been a failure.
Here's the thing. This is not, armchair quarterbacking, Monday morning quarterbacking in saying that. I asked the question at Shane Beamer's introductory press conference, have you been given the okay for Ray Tanner to spend big on coordinators? Mm-hmm. Yes, he said. And then he went and got one of his buddies who was assistant offensive line coach for the Panthers last year. I think if you're going to have kind of a neophyte head coach, you better have a very experienced Power 5 coordinator. I think they made a mistake there. Having said that, no, I wouldn't get rid of Marcus Satterfield halfway through the season. I don't see what good that does. It just gives extra workload to lots of different people in the chain down the staff, and that doesn't really help you. Do I think Marcus Satterfield will be back next season? Probably not. But, this team has talent issues, relatively speaking, as Clemson does, and it's really about where we thought. And if they win the Missouri game or some beat Auburn, Clemson, Florida, I mean, if they have 5 wins, to me, will have pretty much overachieved, and there's a shot that they could still do that.
Have they gotten better or worse as the season has gone on?
I was thinking about that today. I mean, I think their best game was East Carolina. Their second best game was, I think, probably Kentucky. That was a pretty good team, and they had a shot to win that game. Then Troy. So, yeah, against Vanderbilt, which is just a terrible team that they had to scramble and win at the last second, and Texas A&M, it doesn't look like they've improved the last couple games. So given 2 weeks, they don't have to beat Florida, but you're going to want to see some progress on both sides of the ball so that the best players are not Parker White and Kai Kroger.
Yeah. 13 points totaled up is what they beat Troy, ECU, and Vanderbilt by. It's not saying much, but Carolina's also still just 2 wins shy of going to a bowl game, which, as you mentioned, would be a remarkable accomplishment for this football program. Finally, Gene, before we let you go, we're going to slide back into baseball. Ollie Marmol, former Cougar, has been named manager at 35 years old of the St. Louis Cardinals. I knew his brother quite well, Ronnie, who was a catcher at the college. When I was a bat boy, I was just a little kid running around out there. Ollie's he's one of the great up-and-comers in the game. Your thoughts on that, what it means for the College of Charleston, and what type of trailblazer is he for the future of baseball? He's 35, man.
I saw this coming at some point, maybe not quite this early, but I knew that he was that kind of guy, in the mix of some of these younger, really good managers. And I think he's going to be good. And I think he fits so well with this organization and learn a lot from Mike Schilt and other people in the Cardinals organization, the Cardinal way, which few other organizations, maybe the Braves and Dodgers, have just that way thing that is said about them for years and years, all the way through the system. I think Mormel, that's a really cool thing for College of Charleston, as you pointed out, and something that they can brag about and talk about to recruits. And I'm sure that Chad Holbrook will be all over that in his recruiting pitches starting now.
You better believe it. Yeah, College of Charleston's got some alumni out there leading programs. A guy named Monty Lee comes to mind. Ollie. I'm telling you, Scott, look at old Scott Foxhall. He's going to be leading one at some point in time. He just won a national championship. Wild stuff. Gene, you hinted at tomorrow's column in the Post and Courier. What else is coming this week? I can't wait to read that, by the way. I'm sure I'm going to cry and get goosebumps. What else is coming this week?
Yeah, I intend to try to get up with Corey Fields, a really good quarterback at SC State. They've got back-to-back wins. He's got some really nice stats and is played through some personal tragedies this year. And then Clemson, Florida State game. I'll be on the scene in Death Valley on Saturday, and we'll just see kind of where the Tigers are. I think that's going to be a heck of a game, and I'd be stunned if Clemson has an easy time of it, and wouldn't be surprised if the Seminoles, feeling pretty good about themselves right now, if they prevail.
I know that the food options at Truist Park are tremendous these days. I don't know if they have any concession stands open, but if they do, it is National Greasy Foods Day. So go get something greasy.
Well, that sounds good. And, we're in the home of Chick-fil-A, Waffle House, a lot of other certain establishments around here, and Battery Atlanta right next door. So I think I'll probably be able to find something to eat.
That's right. A Chick-fil-A sandwich and all-star special would do just fine. Gene, thank you so much. Happy World Series and happy Halloween. We'll talk to you next week.
Same to you guys.
Later.
Thank you. There you go. Gene Sapikoff, who I truly enjoy being on our program every week. And Gene is a wonderful dude. Wonderful dude. It is also National Chucky the Notorious Killer Doll Day. You can have a day about anything.
I'm telling you, there was a day last week, and I said it. I think we've jumped the shark on this. We got a Chucky Day?
We have a Chucky Day. Tomorrow's a good day. Yeah. Whatever. Man, 15 yards of offense after 3 quarters. 15, one hit, one damn hit. That's all I could think about when I saw that stat. Thanks to Gene, Perry, and Wes. Thanks to Darren. Thanks to all of you. Have a marvelous Monday afternoon. The JB and Goldwater Show, presented by Motley Rice, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, returns tomorrow at noon. You can't wait. See you then.